My name is Jannah. I'm a presenter. I'm also a life coach, and I produce content, long-form documentaries. And you probably think these don't really go together, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'd understand why they do. Good fit. So let's start at the beginning. Right at the beginning. Hopefully this works. Oh, look at that there. Oh, there he is. Innocence. That's me right there. So yeah, this is me right at the beginning, and what I've done is I've sectioned my life off into two parts. One is under 15, and the other is 0 to 15, and the other is from 15 to 30, and you will understand why hopefully. Now, yeah, as a young boy, I was one of 8. Very impressed. We'll get a clap. No messing around, no messing around. And I was about 9 years old when my little old world was first rocked. And that was because of the death of my brother, who died in the 90s, early 90s, a victim of the drug epidemic that hit the streets of the UK, crack and heroin, and unfortunately he was one of the victims of that. And that was when I was 9 years old. In the same year, in school, we had a young friend, a young lady called Dorothy. I remember it very, very clearly. And the teacher came in one day and said, unfortunately, Dorothy has passed away. And I remember because Dorothy was one of my mates and she had long black hair and it just didn't seem real. And the teacher went on to tell us, inform us about the story of what had happened. And she'd been in hospital and Dorothy had been suffering from leukemia. And one day Dorothy turned to her mum and told her mum to be strong and that she would meet her in heaven. On that day, Dorothy died. And it wasn't over. So in the same year as that, in the same school, I don't know what primary school I went to, but anyway, it's a lot of deaths anyway. So in the same year, one of my teachers, beautiful teacher, we all remember her, Mrs. Salter. They told us that Miss Salter was leaving for a round the world trip, and she was leaving the school, and we were very, very sad. And there was lots of tears, if I remember rightly. I'm trying to think back to my younger self. And the very next week, the teacher called us in for an assembly. And during the assembly, she told us that Miss Salter had died. She'd eaten something that obviously wasn't a good fit for her body. And she had suddenly died. And now for my young 9 going on 10-year-old world, that was very, very devastating. It really, really shook my world. And the deaths kept coming. So let's go to the next 15 years. So in that next 15 years, and I'll try not to be as graphic with these, but unfortunately I lost my father to a heart attack. I lost my best friend, Corey Gooden, who was a fit and healthy young man, and his organ failed. And I was about 22 years old. And around that period as well, I also lost my grandfather, my grandmother, and a good friend. And so, the deaths kept on piling up. And it forced me to face the truth of death and the fragility of life. And that pursuit of trying to understand death actually brought me to more life, gave me more life, and hopefully you'll understand how. And one thing I wanted to know, if I could learn the secrets of the dead, I'll be on another show. No. If I wanted to learn the secrets of the dead, I couldn't. And so I thought the next best thing are those patients who are or receiving palliative care. And the question I was really asking was, what do they value? What do they value? Because at a time when they're at a very fragile time of their life, at the end of life, what are the things that they hold most dear to them. And during my research, I was able to come up with this list. And it's funny, because when I wrote most valuable, I put a sign, an emoji for money. But actually, as we will see at the end of life, that's probably one of the furthest things from your mind, as we'll see. So one of the things that they mentioned that was really, really important and that they valued was relationships. Patients often reflect on the meaningful relationships in their lives, including their family, friends, and loved ones. So at the time when life had nearly escaped us, this was something that we held on to. Personal accomplishments. Patients may reflect on their life achievements, whether big or small, and feel a sense of pride and accomplishment and peace from their accomplishments. Next, we have experiences and memories. Special experiences, those meaningful events and moments, often simple things like spending time in nature or enjoying favorite hobbies. Spiritual and emotional well-being. Patients may reflect on their sense of purpose, their values, and their spiritual beliefs. So when it's all said and done, these are the things that give us peace. So I went on a journey to see how I could embody these most important tenets, embody what was most valuable in life. And what it did and what it enabled me to do is to streamline, to cut out the things that don't matter. Because we've all got things in life that are happening, but on the grand scale of things, when it's all said and done, they probably don't matter. And what I'd like to do now is to really, and there's one more, of course. Apologies. Acceptance and peace. And what does it look like if we live our life at a time when we're most strong and when our health is at its height? What would happen to our life if we embodied these principles? So I went on a journey, and I'm still on the journey, to try and sift through the noise and try to live a way which was true to what I held as most valuable. And just to kind of really ram home why and how values are so important to every aspect of our life, is this: motivation. Our values provide us with motivation to act in certain ways. If we value honesty, for example, we are more likely to tell the truth even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. We're most likely to be ourselves, undeniable. Decision making, values. Our values help us to make decisions that are aligned with our beliefs and our principles. If we value environmental sustainability, for example, we may choose to use reusable bags instead of disposable ones, or to recycle our waste instead of throwing it away. So it really impacts the minute actions that we do on a day-to-day basis. Prioritization. Our values help us to prioritize our time, our energy, and resources. If we value our family, for example, we may choose to spend more time with loved ones and prioritize family activities over other commitments. Consistency. Our values help us maintain consistency in all our actions and decisions over time. If we value integrity, for example, we will strive to act in ways that are consistent with our principles, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. mind the grammar. And lastly, alignment with goals. Our values help us align our actions with our long-term goals and aspirations. And if we value health and fitness, for example, we may choose to exercise regularly and eat a healthy diet in order to achieve our healthy goals. So we see now how values really impact and shape the way we look and interact with the world and ourselves. So in my role as a life coach, I feel like the fact that I've had so many experiences with death and losses of life, has allowed me to believe in the preservation of life. And I realized a long time ago that I devoted myself to people, to preserving life, because I'd seen the value in them. Maybe because sometimes when things are taken away from you, then you realize how important they are, how valuable they are. And in my role, creating documentaries and films, all I do is champion people and places, because I value them. So my journey to understand death has allowed me to live life in a more loving way, in a way that's true to my values, in a way that's true to my core beliefs. And it's a journey and a reflection that I have every single day, to be honest. I don't think you've ever climbed to the top of the mountain, but I think it's something that you appreciate, you reflect upon, and you try to incorporate into your everyday, knowing that today might be my last, hopefully not. But if it is, remember this. I would say like the takeaway, for me, some of the takeaway things from my journey of exploring death and life are meaning and purpose, love and connections are really strong themes at end of life. Or meaning and purpose and the loving connections are the strong themes of all aspects of life, the start, middle, and end. And my question really, as I ask myself, I would ask you, what is it that you value? Thank you very much.